Hey everybody, I'm Josh.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
I love the
Right around
delay,
that
the slight delay there. When I start, and then there's a slight delay
Yep.
while Andrew decides if he's going to be the second person for the 400th time. This is so many sequels. Welcome.
That's right.
Today on the show, we're continuing our trek into Muppet Land with Muppets Treasure Island.
That's right.
Is it Muppet or Muppets?
It's Muppet Treasure Island.
It's singular Muppet Treasure Island.
One Muppet to rule them all.
One Muppet to rule them all. So Muppet Treasure Island came out in 1996 and is essentially an adaptation of the classic tale of Treasure Island.
That's right.
This movie has Tim Curry in it as Long John Silver. Bill Connolly was a fun one, Billy Bones. Jennifer Saunders and Kevin Bishop all play the human characters. And then there's your favorite cast of Muppets. There's not a lot of introduction to do beyond that. I think a lot of people are familiar with the Treasure Island story. Long John Silver, the pirate treasure, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So had any of us not seen this?
Andrew.
That is not true.
Oh, this is one that you have seen. You said you had never seen a Muppet movie.
Well, I mean,
and then he
so
saw
let
like
me tell you.
two of them.
Let me tell you all something.
Oh God.
I actually saw this in theaters a long, long time ago when it came out.
Cool.
When you were what, 30?
Don't exaggerate, Josh. He was 19.
Yeah. So you saw Muppet Treasure Island in the theaters.
Yeah.
Which
And
theater?
It was Eastland 4.
Oh, Eastland Mall.
Who would remember that?
Yeah, no, in Bartlesville there was a
Oh, they
cinema
also
called-
stole that name. Okay.
Yeah. there was a cinema called Eastland 4, and it was just 4 movie theaters, and I think it was released during the summer. And my grandpa was watching it after me, and I think I was like 11 at the time because it was 1996, 10 or 11. And my grandpa wanted to take me to it. And I'm like, well, okay. So we went to that on a Sunday, on a summer afternoon. I remember seeing it. I remember watching it, but I barely remember any of it.
Yeah.
You're just killing me. This is just a ridiculous story. Does that movie theater still exist?
No.
It closed?
Yeah.
Bummer.
Is the facade still there?
The facade is still there. Like the building is still there. It just doesn't show any movies, and it hasn't for years.
When did it close?
I want to say
1998.
5 or 6 years ago?
5 or 6 years ago.
I like how
it's just
Andrew rolled his eyes like he's never answered a question of such an obscure.
I know.
Before. You're like, when did it close? He's like, oh, geez,
Why would I know that?
Go through my book. No.
So it's just an empty movie theater sitting there.
It is.
Oh,
I had
well,
one of those
think
for a while.
Maybe there needs to be a So Many Sequels movie theater.
Why not?
Yeah.
Clearly nobody wants it. I bet it's cheap.
Rent our own space, start playing movies.
They did play like because they were playing like regular movies, and then they started playing like dollar movies,
Yeah.
and then
We could do that.
that was good till about 2011, 2012, and then they haven't showed any movies since.
All right. Okay, so
You
Muppet
thought that was a
Treasure
weird
Island?
story.
We have all seen Muppet Treasure Island before
That's
this. Had anyone seen it somewhat recently?
Yeah, I watched it last year.
Oh, you watched it last year. Okay. so
Like
that's
right
pretty
after Disney Plus came out, it was one of the movies I watched.
Oh, okay.
I don't really know why. It just was like, why not? I was like,
good. Oh, why not?
Muppet Treasure Island. Why not?
Yeah. I hadn't seen it in a super long time. I didn't really even remember most of it. It was
What about you,
good.
Garrett?
I love this movie. I've seen it many a time. My most vivid memory of it is watching it at the lake where I don't remember. It was we normally watch it. Well, we don't normally watch it, but it was on during the 4th of July when we were down there.
Last year.
No, it was longer than that. It was like 3 years ago. So not super long. But it's just fun. It's just an enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
So-
like that. Go
And
ahead.
I remember, I was going to say, my memories of it are watching it as a kid. My grandmother had this on VHS. And so I would just watch it with my cousin and my brother just all the time, over and over and over again, all the time. It was one of, like a handful of VHS that she had. So we had various parts of the movie memorized after a while. We would do our own little performances along with the movie of Cabin Fever and, the song where they go sailing. And, just, it was a ton of fun when you're, 7, 8 years old. And it's still fun today.
Yeah. So we haven't covered all of the Muppet movies, but for our purposes, this is the first Muppet movie where the Muppets are not themselves. They're playing characters in a film. This has happened previously in the Muppet Christmas Carol, but we haven't covered that yet. But so this is significantly different than the last couple movies we did in the Muppet movie and the Muppets Take Manhattan. They play themselves kind of on their typical quest for stardom. But this is all that's gone, and they're just playing characters in a movie, which is it's something different from Muppets, and it's pretty cool. But what I also thought was interesting about this one is that the humans are the main characters in this Muppet movie, and in a lot of ways, Muppets kind of are supporting characters. So that was also very different.
Yeah, because in Muppets Christmas Carol, you do have a main character who's a human actor in Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge, but all the other principal characters are Muppets. And this, I guess they just couldn't figure out a way around, do we make a Muppet be Long John Silver? They had actually originally had Rizzo and Gonzo in the early version of the script just playing two characters named Jim and Hawkins. So they were going to be the main characters, or the main character split into two roles. But they just kind of found that it made things too confusing. Which one of them was going to have this relationship with Silver, which one was going to do this, which one was that. So they just ditched that and made Jim Hawkins a character and put Gonzo and Rizzo in this spot of being his friends, and giving you kind of, and as it turned out, Gonzo and Rizzo were very popular after A Muppet Christmas Carol, being the narrators of that movie. People thought they were hilarious. And so they kind of put them back in this main spotlight again. So again, you have Kermit, who's kind of known as being sort of the leader Muppet, in a much more of a supporting role compared to those other two. And I think it works out pretty well here. This is our first time hearing Steve Whitmire as Kermit. This is the second movie after Jim Henson's death. So there's a lot of, this is kind of, in between, like, of the movies they made in the 90s, this is right in the middle. So this is kind of, the first, I feel like you could measure this against the other ones and say this is like where it was at the kind of the sweetest it could be in terms of the Muppets in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I prefer this version of the Muppets to the other two movies. I like the idea of the Muppets, like they were basically themselves as different characters. And I like that a little bit better. I think overall, I like what I would prefer is what they did, where you have movies that are about the Muppets and then you have movies with the Muppets. I think that's a nice way to break things up, because like you always want to see what the Muppets are doing. I mean, even if the movie's not that great, like last week, but those are still interesting stories, because like what kind of things are they going to get into? But I think that works better in a show format. That's why I always enjoy the Muppet shows, whatever they may be coming out with. And then I like them just playing themselves. We know their character from the shows and older movies. And so being able to portray them as Muppets, but also as other characters, I think adds a really fun dynamic. And it just is a good back and forth. You can still be silly. You can still have that Muppet humor. And like there's one line where Billy Connolly's character, Billy Bones, dies, and I can't remember if it's Gonzo or it's Rizzo, but they go, "Is he dead? This is supposed to be a kids movie." Like, you can still do those things, and I think that's nice why they kept like a smart way to keep Gonzo and Rizzo as themselves, to kind of let that humor happen. But then you have Kermit and everybody else just playing other characters, telling a story that people are familiar with, is a very fun break from like any other Treasure Island movie you may have seen or version of it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting way of, because like there's no other version I think you could really say of this. They're the characters from the book sort of filtered through Muppet personalities. Because it's very much Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
But it's also a version of Kermit that he's not really done since, you know? And it's definitely Miss Piggy, but she's also doing things that are saying some things that aren't exactly Miss Piggy. So I mean, like, there are things about it where they're the Muppets, but they're also unique versions of the Muppets. It's the Muppets acting. So it's interesting in that sense.
I will say that's what I actually found this very enjoyable. I would say I would kind of second the notion that this is actually better than the other two that we've watched. It's definitely better than the last one. Like because in the beginning you're just thinking, well, this is just another Muppets take on whatever, and they're just it's just like the Muppets being the Muppets. But no, it goes a little bit more than that, and there's a plot structure here that they're following. And yeah, I mean, they do have some goofy things in the way, because, you know, it wouldn't be the Muppets if it wasn't just a tiny bit goofy. Yeah. But like, no, it was actually fairly enjoyable. I just remember.
Fairly?
No, I said fairly.
I know. Why are you saying it was fairly enjoyable?
Because
it is fairly enjoyable.
That's not a compliment. It's enjoyable. Fairly enjoyable takes away from the enjoyableness of it.
Well,
it's fairly enjoyable.
It's fairly enjoyable.
Hashtag. No, but it was like, I just remember thinking like whenever I got done with it, I'm like, that was actually better than I thought it was going to be. And it was I always like Tim Curry. Whenever Tim Curry's in anything, Tim Curry is kind of a standout. And it didn't have a lot of the antics as it normally would have. I feel like some of them were kind of played down. Now, definitely with the comic relief was definitely with the rats.
Yeah.
Because having the rats go on vacation, that was actually funny. Like that was actually funny what they were doing in between. So, you know, they'd be scuba diving or they'd be jet skiing or whatever. And go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I think a big aspect of the funny here just came from all of the new little supporting characters that they made. All the pirates. I love like Clueless Morgan.
Oh yeah, he's my favorite new Muppet.
Just bruh. Oh, that's what is he? He says when they tear the, oh gosh, I can't remember, but they're really funny. That little grouping, that little group of three. Yeah. I'm just going to put this out there. We've not made this list. If you can ever swing us on to bracketology, we have to have a bracketology of best Muppet jokes. And one of them has to be the entire roll call scene.
Oh my God, that was so good.
Old Tom. Really old Tom. Dead Tom.
Headless whatever. That was really funny.
Headless.
Ugly, bug-eating, something, and it's this really attractive woman. Like, oh my God, it was really funny.
Angel Marie. Oh. Yeah, it was. I laughed so hard every time. And when she goes, "I," baby eating O'Brien, when she's "I," and Sam Eagle and Kermit just. And then one of my other favorite parts is when just after that, Kermit yells, or Captain Smollett, Kermit yells at all of them, and he's like, "Who hired this crew?" Right? And he's like really angry at him, and they all point to Fozzie, and he points to his finger.
That wasn't me. It was the guy who lived in my finger.
Mr. Pimble's the man who lives in my finger.
Yeah, I would like to see more notable stories filtered through a Muppet filter.
That was the plan.
Because the way that I see it, I'm hearing feedback. Is that just on me? The way that it would have gone if it was just a Muppet movie, they would have been like rowing a boat, and then some guy would have been like, "Hey, Kermit, you captain a ship," and he'd go, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea," and it would have just been stupid. Hoist the sails! All this bull.
No, yeah,
This is an actual story that they can tell.
and it started with a Muppets Christmas Carol, just like, hey, what if we just adapted this movie but with the Muppets? And it was a genius idea. I think most people consider Muppet Christmas Carol to be the better of these two movies because they only did two really of these adaptation style films. And I, if you want to make that argument, I think that's fine. I really enjoy this one for very specific reasons, but the plan was like when Muppet Christmas Carol was so successful, they were like, hey, we could do this for like years. And it's really strange to me that they only ended up deciding to do just this one. This is the only other one they did because after this, they didn't do any more other than a direct-to-DVD Wizard of Oz adaptation. But like they had, like the plan initially was after Muppet Christmas Carol, they came down with two story ideas. They were either going to do Treasure Island or they were going to do King Arthur. And I was like, both of those work. Either of those could have worked just fine. I was kind of shocked that they never decided to pursue the King Arthur idea, or why they never really pursued anything else. I don't know if it was just too much work, if this movie didn't make enough for them to think it was worth it. I don't know, because the next movie after this is exactly what you're talking about, Garrett. It's the Muppets being kind of like real people again, living in a house, doing their own thing. And it didn't do very well.
Which is the one that came after this?
Muppets from Space.
Ah, right. Okay. That's one that I've never seen.
And unfortunately, Muppets from Space, I'm gonna watch it probably anyway, even though we're gonna we're gonna skip it as a series, as part of the series. But it's the only movie that prominently features my favorite Muppet, Pepe the King Prawn. He's hilarious in it.
Fair enough.
Pretty good.
Anyway. So what did Josh? I don't feel like you really gotten to speak at length.
No, and I'll be real. I don't feel like I have a lot to say. I thought this movie was good. It just is good. I don't have like any memories tied to it. I liked it. I didn't think it was one of the funnier ones, but I do think it had probably the best music of all the ones we've watched so far. Mm. Yeah. And it was the most interesting story. But I think I came out going like, yeah, I'm a 30-year-old man watching a children's movie. It's perfectly good, and I don't have a lot to say about it.
No, there's not really much along the lines of detraction. Garrett, how was the movie you rewrote in your head?
Oh, I don't need to rewrite this one. This one's perfect.
Oh, good. I do have, if I'm going to offer one critique, if I could offer one. I feel like, the thing about Treasure Island is that it's a book, a story that's been adapted no less than 50 times, like on TV and film. Countless versions, sci-fi versions, Western versions, anime versions, you name it.
Right.
So if you want this type of movie that I'm going to describe, it's out there probably. But I kind of feel like in this version, I feel like they could have given a little bit more weight to the relationship between Long John Silver and Jim Hawkins, because they make the same decisions that they almost always make, which is Long John Silver develops an attachment for Jim, saves him, and then later Jim, spoiler, lets Long John go, like lets him escape. And I feel like this movie didn't really establish that connection as well as I've seen it done in other movies.
I agree, because I felt like that there was a good character development there between Long John Silver and Jim. and yeah, there was gaps where we saw other things happening and they just never developed. I'm like, well, I wonder if maybe that could have blossomed into something else. That could have like like if it could have developed and maybe just kind of deepened it a little bit. I mean, I know it's a Muppet movie, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
a little character development doesn't hurt any movie.
Absolutely, and it's there, but it's almost. I feel like it's too subtle. Like I feel like they really could have given us a few more moments where you actually start to see Long John actually care, and then have to fight caring. But I feel like unfortunately the way that it plays through the movie is that it always appears like he's playing an angle. Like it very few times seems like he's actually like letting his guard down and caring about Jim.
Right.
And I feel like that's an important aspect of the movie. And I've just seen it done better, I think. But that said, the movie's wildly entertaining for me from start to finish. So I can't really knock it too bad.
No.
If I had a note to change something, it would be, and I don't think this will surprise anyone, nor will I think you'll necessarily disagree with me.
I know where you're
But
going.
it takes so long for it to happen that I feel like we didn't need it. What if Miss Piggy didn't show up? Ever.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't come around for an awfully long time, and I'm like, we could have just kept going without her.
Where they really had to work overtime just to get her in this movie, because
It seemed like it. Her whole plotline seemed a little forced.
There are no real prominent female characters in the book Treasure Island.
Boom shakalaka's not in Treasure Island?
No, well, the character
Boom shakalaka.
Sorry.
The character Ben Gunn, who she's based on, and it's the same character for the most part. He's a hermit who is a part of Captain Flint's crew who was left behind. So that's why he knows all the secrets. But they change it to Benjamina and make it, Flint's ex-girlfriend or whatever, so that they can work Piggy in. And actually, as far like the thing is, Miss Piggy's one of those characters that when I see her, the phrase "small doses" comes to mind. And This was the appropriate amount of dose for Miss Piggy, because she came in with 40 minutes left in the movie, 35 minutes left in the movie. You get a couple hi-yas, you get a couple funny Francophile jokes,
and one sappy bad song,
and then one sappy bad song, and you're out, and that was just the right amount of Miss Piggy for me, because if she was in this whole movie, it would probably you'd be like, oh, God, is Piggy going on about something else again here?
I missed this too because I just didn't see it in the credits, but I'm now seeing that the music in this movie was done by Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, the score. Yeah.
Of Pirates of the Caribbean and every Christopher Nolan movie.
This would not be his last. This would not be his last pirate movie.
No. Is it his first pirate movie?
Maybe.
It probably is.
He did the score, and then a couple other prominent songwriters did the musical numbers. And I actually watched the making of for this, and Hans Zimmer said that with the Muppets, his view. It's always fascinating to listen to composers talk about movies, because they look at it from such a different perspective than I would. But he goes, with the Muppets, I think you need to have a very traditional score, because you need that to contrast how zany they are. So the music needs to not stand out in the way you want, in the way you normally would try, so that they stand out. And I was like, wow, that's not what I would have thought. I would have thought you'd be like, it's the Muppets, so I want to have a score that really matches their intensity. But if you listen, it's a good it's out there. You can just listen to just the score, and it's very piratey. It's very you can tell that it's sort of a precursor to the Pirates of the Caribbean theme.
Now that I have found myself in Hans Zimmer's filmography, I'm surprised by a lot of the movies he's done. For example, on his upcoming slate, he's composing the music for the new Space Jam movie.
You know what's crazy about Hans Zimmer? He's only won one Academy Award.
He's all over the place, and I mean that in a good way. He also this year alone, he's doing the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run.
Great.
Wonder Woman 1984. No Time to Die.
Great.
Dune, and a few others, but those are
Gosh.
the big ones. But that what a
He
what a
did,
wide range of films that is.
He did the theme for Hot Rod.
Uh,
Did he?
Yeah.
I'm
He-
Or
gonna-
the score for it, I should say.
from what I've learned, from what I've gathered about Hans Zimmer, he doesn't use a regular orchestra. He uses synthesizers.
That's
he
right.
does
Drum
everything with
beats.
his mouth.
Yeah, but whenever he did the score for The Dark Knight, like the entirety of The Dark Knight, it's recorded in notes D and C.
That's cool.
I think that's really cool.
We've hit
To
Andrew's
just-
weird facts now.
I mean, I'm just saying, but yeah,
notes were Muppets Treasure Island scored
Played
it.
in Muppent.
Nailed it.
they invented
M is
a
for
new note.
Andrew, can you name the one movie that Hans Zimmer won an Academy Award for?
The Lion King.
That's right.
That's
That's right.
Oh, that
You would think with as many movies as he's done, he would have been. He's only been nominated for a couple, like 8.
It is kind of surprising.
I figured he would get one.
He is one of the big names in film score, so
That's right. And then this movie was actually directed by Jim Henson's son, Brian Henson. This was his second time directing. And I think he only did one more after this before it went on to other people. But I thought overall, I think the movie looks good too. It's got good production value. Everything looks the way it should.
I think it still holds up really well. I was thinking
Yeah.
about watching it. I was like, everything looks really good still.
yeah, it helps that Treasure Island is kind of a timeless tale, so
That's right.
it doesn't feel dated in that regard because pirate movies are kind of always dated in that way. And then the Muppet effects always are pretty good.
Yeah, and they had some extra work to do because I mean, anytime you do stuff where you're shooting primarily on a ship, if you're gonna do like those ship in the water shots, it's tough.
That's true. And
They had a series of miniatures too, so
there's a couple piggy related special effects moments that it looks so strange to me to see her and Kermit hanging upside down because you just don't see Muppet legs very often.
Yeah.
not that long.
So that was kind of strange. And then I should have brought this up last week because I meant to. But what really disturbed me was when they had clearly put like a human being in a full piggy costume and had her rollerblade through a park.
yeah, that
That was disturbing.
it's really weird to look at.
It was really weird to look at, but
They do that in the Great Muppet Caper too. They have a
So-
person put on a piggy mask and ride a motorcycle, and it was just as off-putting in that scenario.
yeah, the Muppet effects only get questionable to me when they show us the full body because sometimes it's a little too much.
Yeah, and this was a really, and there were some really impressive little effects here. They had this shot of like Kermit hopping like multiple times, like he's doing front flips during a sword fight. That was really cool. Some of the shots of the ship is like a miniature ship on a blue screen with like a little thing that like moves it,
Yeah.
and they actually built small like the size of this phone miniature Muppets that they could control to move around on the little ship for like these like shots to give it like that kind of perspective. Like it's it can't be overstated. I feel like how much work goes into this, and sometimes it can feel like they're just playing around.
Yeah,
But it's a tremendous amount of work, and it really, you got to give the Jim Henson Productions credit.
yeah.
I was particularly impressed by the opening number.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, the scary pirate song.
yeah, when the Scary Pirate song, whenever we see like all of the talking
Gulls
like,
and stuff.
boneheads.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I'm like, wow, this is actually they kind of went above and beyond for this.
Yeah.
So
So, any other favorite parts?
I just want to talk about Tim Curry.
Oh, Tim Curry,
Yes.
he's great.
Always fantastic, always great. I want to say, so when I feel like people think of Tim Curry for like 4 or 5 different things. And usually when I think of Tim Curry, it's Clue Tim Curry.
What does everyone think of when they think of Tim Curry? I'm curious now.
Oh, yeah.
What's everyone's what Tim Curry do you associate with most?
So, I guess this is going to be the dumbest answer that's going to be given. So I'll save it. Andrew?
Oh man. Yeah, Andrew, who's your Tim Curry?
My Tim Curry. It's a tough one because there's two.
Well,
And
only pick one,
I know.
and then tell us who the second one is.
Okay, the first one that when you hear Tim Curry, the first thing I think of is Home Alone 2.
He's so brief in that, but
so
you're
brief.
right.
You know what?
But-
No, I'm with Andrew on that. That's the Tim
You're
Curry I
right.
think of every time.
Yeah, but the other thing I was thinking of, and I don't know if you all remember this, the movie Congo. He played.
Now that's weird.
He played a foreign immigrant named Herker Merker Mulga.
I'm really glad I asked this question.
Why do we have this man on the show?
All right.
Because
Congo's
he has
very-
a wider
Congo-
breadth of film knowledge than us. Look, he just pulled
That
out.
is
You
clearly
just pulled
not
out
a
Congo.
good
Congo's a
thing.
very
That's not a good
Congo's a very
thing.
successful film, I think.
It was a very successful film. It
I
made
think
a
it
lot
was
of
nominated for
money.
Best Picture.
Do not justify this. No, this is unacceptable.
I've never seen it, but sounds like a blast. So for me, I'm glad that none of us said it. For me, it's 1993's Three Musketeers.
Okay.
Has anybody ever seen that?
Yep.
Yes.
Starring Charlie Sheen, Oliver Platt, Keith Sutherland,
None of us picked the obvious Tim Currys, and that's amazing.
and Chris O'Donnell. He plays the bad guy in that, and it was the first thing I saw him in, and it had that he had that classic voice, that nah voice. My wife, she sent me hers. It's Fern Gully.
Yes, another good
Bad guy in
one.
Fern Gully. Yeah,
Fern Gully's
creepy
good.
as heck in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he scared me. Him, Robin Williams, that's a good lineup.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I like Fern Gully.
But I even though I think of Clue Tim Curry, because this is one of my all-time favorite movies, but I'm pretty sure that this version of Tim Curry is the one that I was first introduced to. I imagine that I saw Muppets Treasure Island before I saw Clue. I can't be confident in that. But I now always forget that he's in it, and it's always a nice little pleasant surprise whenever I remember. It's usually not when I see him, it's like before I watch it, but it's always just a treat whenever Tim Curry shows up in any movie. And he clearly commands your attention if you can remember him from random ass movies that y'all said.
Yeah. No, he
For
does.
being in there for maybe a total of 5 minutes. I don't know how long he's in Three Musketeers, but he is not in that
Oh,
movie.
he's
in
all in that. He's all
Home
in
Alone
that.
2 for more than a total of 5 minutes.
That is not even close to true, you guys. He is one of the main protagonists of the hotel plot.
Protagonist.
But you put his
protagonist.
on-screen
Or
time.
antagonist.
I bet if you put his on-screen time on a timer, it's 5 minutes worth. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
But it's
You-
5 minutes that you remember him being in.
Well
That's what I'm
executed. 5
saying.
minutes. I was gonna say, oh shoot, he has a super iconic voice. Like it's a very distinct voice, very recognizable. I think that's one of the part of the reason he stands out so much in any role that he's had. Interestingly enough, this is a little Batman fact I know. I don't know how far it actually got along, but he auditioned to play the Joker in the animated series in which Mark Hamill played the Joker. So it was between like Mark Hamill and Tim Curry. Like
Well, that's tough.
either way, you got a pretty good, and I think there's actually audio somewhere you can find of Tim Curry doing lines for it, but it's an interesting alternate universe. He does a lot of voice work.
He's done a lot of Nickelodeon stuff too. I mean, he was Nigel from the Wild Thornberrys. He was
That's right.
in a few episodes of Our Real Monsters as supporting characters. He was in the Rugrats movie, so he does a lot of
he's in Ferb.
Nickelodeon stuff.
And yeah,
But outside of that, I don't really have much else to say about the movie. I just want to make sure we got the Tim Curry time.
Yeah.
Which is a show that I would watch, Tim Curry, if you're listening.
I don't think he does much
Um,
anymore. I don't
No,
know.
Not really.
do we want
He's born in 1946. He's an older guy now. He's
Well,
I don't think.
good. I mean, he's nowhere near Andrew, but
no, shut up. No, what happened to him was, and I hate to bring the house down, he actually had a stroke a few years
Right.
ago, and
Right.
he can't walk and he can't talk.
Yeah.
So
Well,
he's
that's not totally true. He was in
his
that
last-
Fox version of Rocky Horror Picture Show. He can talk, just not well. Just like
Yeah.
it's one of the side effects of having a stroke for a lot of people.
I think he's slowing it down. His last credited film role was in 2017. So I don't know if he's just taking time off or if he's getting to the point of retirement. But this is going to sound weird. This is like not. I'd have to really look at this again, but this is one of his last live action film roles. He's in a lot of movies as a voice and as a vocal character in terms of films, but like he hasn't done a lot of live action film appearances. He's been on TV a couple times since then. I think the most prominent one recently was like the season 5 or season 6 finale of Criminal Minds. But you have to go back to site like 2005 or 2004 to find his last live action film appearance. A lot of voiceover work, a lot of film, even the movies he's in, playing a voice or used as a voice. Yeah, it's hard to say. But do we want to talk about the young boy playing Jim Hawkins at all?
I don't even know who that is.
I found out today that he
got a little career.
plays the speaking role of one of the fictional band members of Gorillaz.
Fascinating.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got a little career over there. That sounds so patronizing. But over in England, he has like his own show and he's done a couple different roles on British television. So it's not like some actors where like they do a movie when they're like 7 years old and then they never do anything ever again. He's got some stuff going on. Has to be if there's a real real detraction for me or something that I just can't ignore. It's the singing voice for his character. I don't know if it's actually him singing or somebody they brought in, but it's so high and light. It's distracting.
Yeah.
It is very high.
It's like way too much.
I can recall. I think even there's one thing I recall seeing it in the movie theater. I really didn't like his songs, and I just thought they were just kind of off-putting. Like they didn't sound right.
Yeah.
So
it sounds
maybe
dubbed.
Why?
That's part of the problem. It's like one of the few things that sounds dubbed.
Yeah.
Speaking of dubbing, an interesting little like production fact that I forgot I looked up. Frank Oz, who plays Miss Piggy, plays Fozzie, didn't actually operate those characters for this movie. Kevin Clash, well known for playing Elmo, he was the puppeteer for Fozzie and Miss Piggy in this movie, and Frank Oz dubbed his voice in post. So one of the few times that technically one of the main Muppeteer cast didn't play their character on set. So interesting how that kind of plays out, because I don't feel like you can. It's not something that feels like you notice.
No.
And so it kind of begs the question why they ever bother having them play them all the time. But they love doing those live appearances, and it has to be the right character when they do those interviews and those special appearances at things. You have to have that character right. So like that's why they do it so much. But like they don't have to have, like they can just have anybody do the puppeteering and I'll just dub the voices in. Interesting.
Yep.
Not that interesting, but interesting.
Yeah, not that interesting. All right. Well, shall we move on to talking about the Muppet Treasure Island box office haul?
Yeah. We'll talk about it, what there is. So Muppet Treasure Island is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th Muppet movie. Debuted in February 16th of 1996. 1996, a good year. We were there not too long ago. We'll talk about that in a minute. The weekend it debuted, pretty hotly contested weekend. So opening in its second week, you have the movie, and I'm sure that Andrew's familiar with this movie, Broken Arrow.
Yep.
Broken Arrow, starring John Travolta. And Christian Slater. I can't do Christian Slater. And directed by John Woo.
Yeah.
Andrew, do you like Broken Arrow? Is that a movie you like to watch?
I really liked that movie growing up.
Unfortunately, not named after the town near Tulsa.
Yeah,
Instead, some other thing.
but no, I like that movie growing up. I love John Woo movies. So
So that was in its second weekend, bringing in $11 million. At number 2, you had one of 3 movies that opened this weekend. It's Happy Gilmore, bringing in $8.5 million. At number 3, Muppet Treasure Island, bringing in 7.9, so just under. Man, if Happy Gilmore hadn't opened up against it, probably the number 2 movie that weekend. And then at number 4, you have a movie called City Hall. I don't know much about this one. Andrew probably does. He probably saw this with Muppet Treasure Island as a double feature. City Hall brought in 6.9. And then at number 8, you have Mr. Holland's Opus.
wow.
Excuse me, at number 5 in its 8th week.
That's a good movie.
And then that's really about it for that. So
Cool.
Muppet Treasure Island would go on to make $34 million in the United States. It didn't release internationally, so this is just here in America and Canada. Maybe Mexico's included in this number. $34 million, and that's against a $31 million budget. So, hey, made the budget back. Not a huge box office success, but made back what it cost, so that's good. You would think at $34 million, that would be a really, really distant finish at the domestic box office. But interestingly enough, it actually finished, I believe, in the number 44 spot.
Yeah, grosses were different back then than they were.
44. It finished at number 44, just behind A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. Right above, number 1996 is Matilda. The number 1 movie of 1996 is Independence Day, bringing $306 million in the United States. Number 2 is Twister. Number 3, Mission Impossible. Number 4, Show Me the Money, Jerry Maguire. And at number 5, a movie that Andrew will tell us more about, Ransom.
Not a bad
He doesn't
flick.
need to tell us more about it.
Starring Mel Gibson.
Mel
Internationally,
Gibson,
the
Ron
numbers
Howard.
are almost identical. The only thing different is at number 4, you have The Rock. That's right, just Dwayne Johnson by himself. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually Michael Bay's, I think, directorial debut.
His best movie.
Without a doubt, his best movie in terms of it being a movie. And then number 5, Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame. So
Excellent.
then we've been in 1996 before. Obviously, we did Mission Impossible. We were just there not long ago for Star Trek First Contact. Check out our Star Trek series that we just did. Go back and check out Mission Impossible. I'm not in that, so for fans of the show, it's a bit of a hit. But hey, at number at 34 million. At 34 million unadjusted, Muppet Treasure Island is the 4th highest grossing Muppet movie. And we will talk about the highest grossing one next week.
Yeah.
But for now, let me pull up my little numbers here, unless you guys remember. I think Garrett won last week, right?
Should be me.
Yeah, Garrett, you won the Letterbox game last week. So Garrett runs the game this week.
Yay! Ladies and
and this is
gentlemen, welcome to the Letterbox game. This is where the film community weighs in on what they believe this movie is.
And the
done.
points don't matter.
Okay, thank you for that. You guys are going to guess what you think the score is for Letterboxd. So whoever wants to jump in, it's on a scale of 0.5 star to 5 stars.
All right. How are we going to pick who goes first? You want to just shout it out?
Sure.
I'm going to say 3.6.
3.6 for David.
I'm going to go with 3.3.
3.3 for Andrew.
3.4.
3.4 for Drush. We do have an exact winner. One of you is exactly right, as Bob Barker would say.
Come on down.
You'd already be down. Thank you. If you know
I guess
how the
that's true.
mechanics of Price is Right works.
Nah, I'm not. I don't watch Prices Right.
Well, you should. It's good. 3.4, Josh. is the winner.
And I do it again.
Do not need Josh to win.
Too bad. Okay, so then what are our personal rankings for this movie? Since I won, I'll start. I think it's a 3.5. I think Letterboxd is pretty right.
I go with that. 3.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a Yeah, I'll give it a 3.5. I really thought I could push it to a 4, but now you know
There's
what?
nothing wrong with 3.5.
I'll give it a 4.
Okay.
I really enjoy it.
I too will go with 3.5.
Cool. That'll drag us up to like a 3.7.
Yeah, where it will be right in the middle there.
Yeah, and you got there are more 3.5s. You can, so 3.5 from the So Many Sequels gang.
Yeah. Yep. That's what it's going to be. Okay. So that ends that. Like David said a couple minutes ago, we will be talking about the highest grossing Muppet movie next week. And also the first Muppet movie to win an Oscar.
Brett McKenzie.
The Muppets from 2011. The
Starring Jason
kind
Segel.
of the big Muppets film reboot. Yes, starring Jason Segel, co-written by Jason Segel, and starring literally everyone you love is in this movie.
Yeah.
Everyone anyone could love. So I'm quite excited to revisit it.
It's weird to think that this was the big movie that brought the Muppets back, and it's 9 years old now.
Ugh.
Wow.
2011 is where we're traveling next time. So
Is this our last Muppets movie?
This will be our last Muppets movie. We won't do Muppets Most Wanted, but by all means, please watch it anyway because you'll have a ton of fun. I tried to keep it to just 4. So the goal was to hit one in a different decade with each one.
Yep.
So we had the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. There was no Muppet movie, so the 2010s it is.
20
And
odds.
You can't go, oh, Muppets or Muppets Most Wanted. You got to do Muppets.
You got to do Muppets. It's the
one that
better one
started
anyway.
it. Although I will say, if you don't want to watch the full Muppets Most Wanted movie, just watch the opening number, and it'll make you want to watch the rest of it.
Okay.
It's a really good opening number.
All right. Well, everyone is looking forward to hearing us talk about the Muppets, I'm sure.
Yep.
And then, of course, finding out what we're going to do next. So find us online on all your favorite social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Letterboxd.
Mm-hmm.
We're on all of those. Follow us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And, of course, subscribe to our podcast feed in your favorite podcasting app. Be it Spotify, be it Apple Podcasts, be it some other weird app that you might use if you don't use one of the two only ones.
SoundsTooth, maybe.
SoundsTooth is a good one.
Yeah.
We like
Castbox. We're on all of them.
Sure. You could have made that one up and I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next time. Have a Muppet weekend.